Hello, friends of the painting world. It's me again, Harold Weeks. Glad to be back with y'all. And before I start, I owe you all an apology. The last video I did, I recorded the entire video in slow motion, and I did not know how to get it out of slow motion. So I'm just gonna do another complete video. And I do apologize so much, but like I said, I got so much to learn. And this channel will be kept real regardless. If I mess up, you'll know about it. I won't lie to you guys. I just like doing this entirely too much. And my reason for doing it is to be happy. And with that said, today is one of them days I need to be happy. So let me show you what we've done so far. So far, I have a canvas that's already got the liquid white applied. Tonight, I'm using the board it's a Coroplast board that I get where my wife works. It's the kind that you see the politician signs on, the little election signs. She has this where she works, so I have them cut me a piece that'll fit between the legs of my easel. My colors today: titanium white, phthalo blue, alizarin crimson, black. Oh, and that is Mars black, by the way. Phthalo green, mountain mixture, sap green, dark sienna, Van Dyke brown, cad yellow, yellow ochre, Indian yellow, bright red. And right quick, let me tell you, if you do not have a color that you can use as mountain mix, like one particular color that comes out of a tube, you can mix your blue, your brown, your alizarin crimson, and the black. And it will create a beautiful mountain color. Now, with that said, we will jump right into painting something. I don't know exactly what we're going to paint yet, but we're going to be happy about it. Okay, we are set up. Hopefully you can see the canvas. And the first thing I guess we'll need to do is put us a sky in. So we will come into our phthalo blue, take our 2-inch brush, tap us a little color on the brush, come up to our canvas. We'll start in our corners, because remember, we always want our corners dark. Then we'll come across the top with our little X strokes. Start working ourselves down. Now, when you start running out of paint, you can grab a little more. And notice I said a little more. Start back at the top again. You always want your top darker. Don't bring your dark color down if you don't have to. You want it to be lighter at the horizon. Remember what I said in that one video about leaving light spots in the sky. You want to try to remember to do that. Because if you can leave your light spots in the sky, it helps a lot. Because when you got to put clouds on, you don't have too much blue. It'll make your clouds easier. It don't make it hard when you're putting your mountain on. You don't want to build up a lot of paint doing this wet on wet technique, because every layer of paint you put on, you're going to have to come back and put another layer of paint on that. And by doing so, you're building layers up. And the golden rule is a thin paint will stick to a thick paint. So if you keep piling paint on, eventually it's going to be so thin that it's going to almost turn to mud on you. So you don't want that. Now once you get your sky, I'm down, say probably about six inches or so. Once you get your sky just kind of roughed in, you can come back up and just lightly blend it from the bottom up. Just want to lightly blend it. You don't want to blend all your dark spots out or your light spots. And then very softly go across. And then you have what I think is a decent enough sky to paint with or paint on. Now we're going to go back into our phthalo blue again. Tap a little on the brush. And this time we're going to pick up about as much phthalo green as we did the blue. And we're going to tap the two together and mix them on the brush. Now, phthalo green is a very strong color. So be careful when you're using it. It'll take over everything. It's kind of like that red. Now, we're going to put a color in the bottom that can represent water, or we can turn it into anything we want, but for now we're going to let it represent water because it may end up being water in this painting. And you want to come in from the sides of your canvas and pull straight across. Now, I don't know if it's picking that up on the camera or not, but you can see little hints of green throughout the mixed in with the blue here and there in little places. And you know, sometimes water will have that green effect to it. A lot of times the color from the sky will reflect in the water, and it'll appear as the same color as the sky. That depends on the water, I guess, what part of the world you're in. Some places here it don't do it. Now that we got our color on, we've left us a spot in the middle. Our spot in the middle can act as a shimmer of light if we do this right. So what you want to do is very, very gently start blending the bottom together. And I always start at the bottom right there for a reason. And it's because the bottom is always going to be darker. So with that being said, you can take your paper towel, knock some of your blue off, some of your color. When I say knock it off, this is what I mean. All I'm doing basically is just rubbing that brush, the bristles into the paper towel, getting some of the blue off. And then I'm going to go back up to my lighter part. And I'm going to start gently blending across and working down this time. That way I'm not bringing this dark color back up. I'm keeping my light colors toward the horizon. And that's what you want to do in a painting, because that's the way it is in real life. You have a lighter line at your horizon. But now just like that, you can see that little sheen that we left. And we didn't do that by accident. We meant to do it. How about that? Okay. Now, with this brush, it's contaminated with blue and a little green. But let's don't wash it just yet. Let's hold off. We'll put it right there for now. Today, the clouds I think we're going to do, I thought about it, and I think we're going to do the ones that you make with your fan brush. And we're going to pick this up just a little red. Now, when I say a little red, that's what I mean. I mean a very small amount of red. I hope you can see that. Because I'm going to take that red and I'm going to put it in one of my piles of liquid white. And I'm going to load the brush up on both sides. And that red's going to start mixing and it's going to make a pinkish color. Now you don't want that to get real pink. You still want your majority, your major color there. You want it to remain more white than pink. Once you get your brush loaded, come up to your canvas. You got to pick you out a starting spot. Now, I already know in this painting that I'm planning on putting a mountain in. And if I'm going to put a mountain in, I assume or I think it's going to be in this area across here and not way up here. Probably will, from my horizon up, probably at the highest, they'll be probably in this area. So if I don't want a lot of build up in my color, so when I come to put my mountain in it, that's another color I'm having to contend with. I'll come over here and I'll just tap in, some color, and this is like those clouds I did in that Easy Cloud video. You just tapping in some color, and that's all you're doing. That is it. I mean, that's all I'm doing. There's no secret to that. There's no pattern to it. That's all I did, is what you just seen. And I'll do the same thing over here. I'll come in and I'm just tapping at random. I'm not trying to make anything. The only thing I'm keeping in mind right now is that I want the white paint to be thicker at the top of my clouds. That's the only thing I'm trying to keep in mind. And then you can come back along the bottom of either one of these and just kind of tap out some of the color, very little. You don't have to tap out a lot. I'm going to come in with one more set of clouds in this painting, in this area, and we'll do them the same way. I'll take them all the way out to canvas, and we'll just bring them in like this, and just kind of let them carry on their own little cloud way. Let them be their little clouds. And just like that, we have the foundation for clouds. Now, one thing I want to mention right quick while I'm thinking about it. Anytime you finish with a brush that's got a lot of paint on it, if you'll take your paper towel and pull some of that color out, excuse me, if you'll pull some of that color out of your brush onto that paper towel, when you take your brush to your thinner, I use a bucket with the screen in the bottom, but when you take a dirty brush to it, if it's got less paint in it, it don't muddy up your thinner as bad, and you don't end up with a lot of thinner waste. It'll last longer. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It'll make it last a little longer. Now we want to go up and blend our clouds out. With that, we're going to do it with a clean, dry 2-inch brush. We're going to come along the bottom. And remember, doing clouds, we just want to gently, very gently, blend out the bottom, and don't overblend. If you overblend these, you'll end up with that big cotton ball look. And some clouds actually look like cotton balls. I mean, I'm not saying that your clouds would be wrong if you did that. But if that's not the kind of cloud you're trying to do, you won't be happy with it. And anybody that, well, I won't say anybody, but a lot of people that paint, we seem to be our own worst critics. I mean, in our eyes, we can't do nothing right sometimes. So just everything we do just don't look right to us. And we'll get frustrated and we'll be like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do this. Well, all you got to do is stop. When you get to that point, if you get frustrated, just stop. Take you a break. Walk away from it if you have to. Because my motto and what I live by is, we're doing this for fun. And that is the only reason I do it, is for fun. Because believe me, I'm not making a living doing it. I do it for fun. And it makes me happy. I enjoy sitting down at a canvas that has nothing there and making something out of it. Now, when I come back up with the brush, and what I did, always knock color out of your brush. I mean, you want to live life doing that. It was told to me, always make out like your brush is after you. It's out to get you. And with that mindset, always try to beat him up on a napkin somewhere to keep paint from building up on your brush bristles. But very gently, we're going to come in. Now, I've been thinking about what I can say to make this stroke make sense. And it's a backwards C. Is basically all it is. It's from the bottom up and around. And it's very gently done. And it's just very gently done. That's all there is to it. And what this does is it fluffs that cloud up. It gives it a body. And then, well, my old brush is out to get me again. Let me knock some of that paint out. You can come back up. Remember we talked about your little strings that you'll pull out sometimes, and I said don't worry about them. Then I sat there and fiddled with them until I got. They will come out. Now, if they worry you, they worry you. They will come out. You may have to work with them just a little bit, but those will come out. So what you want to do is very gently here, very gently come across your cloud and set it down into the paint. Now, this amount of pressure that I'm using right now it is so gentle. I mean, it is very, very gentle. And just like that, your clouds are set in the sky. And the red that we put in, you can see it in different spots. It looks like those clouds have a little glow to them. And then from here, we've got this brush. We won't wash it just yet either. We'll hang on to it for a minute. We'll put it right here. And then our next step we'll start is on our mountain. To do our mountain, we're going to take us the big knife. I think they call the knife a number 10. Yeah, it's a 10. We'll take that knife, and I have a color, like I said at the beginning of the video, that is called Mountain Mix. And it is a Bob Ross color. And I gave the ingredients that you can, if you don't have that color, that you can use. But we're going to come in and we're going to pull it out a little and get us a thin, even roll of paint on our knife. I hope you can see that. And we're going to come up. Now at this point you can think about this canvas in sections. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if you think about it in sections like that, even sections, just draw yourself imaginary lines in your head. I'm going to work in section 1. I'm going to come about halfway over in section 1, maybe not quite half. And in section 1, about halfway up, I'm going to start pulling down to my left, just pulling down some paint. And as you can see, I'm shaking my hand as I do it because I want it to be, I want the side of my mountain to look jagged and rocky. I don't want to come straight down with a straight line and make it look like a upside down ice cream cone or a pyramid in Egypt somewhere. I want the line to be clean when I'm doing this, but I don't want it to be straight. That's what I'm saying. Now, I'm going to come back up with some more paint on my knife. Right here where I started, I'm going to put my knife a little under it. And I'm going to come down. And I'm going to shake it. And I'm going to go the other way. Just like so. And that's all you want right now. You want your outside line clean. But you also want it to have some jagged edges and kind of maintain a sort of a rough look. It makes it look more like a mountain to me. Now, if you don't want to do your mountains that way, you don't have to. Like I said, when I first started doing these videos, is I'm doing stuff that works for me. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to pick a little more to paint up, even roll. To put in another peak, I'm going to drop down, and I'm almost dead center of the line now. They say don't put your main peak in the center. That's another one of those unspoken artist rules, I think. But I'm a little under halfway, and I'm under this peak. So I'm going to come in and just put me something raggedy looking across here. Again, that's all I want, is just something real raggedy looking. And this is for people that say, well, I can't draw. Well, let me tell you, you don't have to draw in this technique. If you did, I wouldn't be a painter. I couldn't do it. We'll take us a little more paint. We'll come up, touch that one, and again, make us some jagged edges, just like so. And remember what I said, all you're worried about right now is your outside edges, your outside line. You just want to put some humps and bumps in it. You're not worried about any of your main body yet because, well, you'll see in a second. I'll show you why you're not worried about it. And then our last step, what we'll do is we'll come over and we'll come in here and we'll just tie this in with this little mountain here. Make us a few humps and bumps and just kind of let it go off and do its own thing over here in its own little world. Now with that ugly conglomeration right there, you want to take your knife and come back up along the outside of those lines. And you want to be careful here because, well, I'll show you why. If you get outside your line, like, uh-oh, what am I going to do now? Well, your mountain's going to grow. That's all there is to it. There's no way around it. All you got to do is come out and just grab it and pull it back into the mountain somewhere. And all you've done is just made yourself another little peak. But with that being said, your mountain is growing when you do that. So you want to be kind of careful. You don't want your mountain to grow to where it's entirely too big to manage. But it's your mountain. You make it as big as you want. If you want the mountain to take over the entire painting, it's your mountain. And that's exactly what you can do. If it makes you happy, I'm happy. I'm going to come in and scrape out as much of this paint as you can without creating little growths. We'll call them growths. Come in and just push that paint if you have to. I see you can push paint with this knife, or you can pull paint with this knife. That's what I like about it. It's versatile. You can pull paint, but you can also push paint. Uh-oh, my mountains done grew again. That was a happy accident. But like I said, when I mess up, I'm going to keep it real with you guys, and I'll show you how I fix it. I'm not going to go up here and try to edit it out. And, you know, I mean, you saw me mess up. There's no sense in me trying to lie to you. I'm trying to be your friend. And that'd be a heck of a way for us to start a friendship, for me to lie. Now, that is my mountain form, my foundation. Remember earlier I said we was going to save the 2-inch brush that had the blue on it. And the reason we're going to save it is for this step here. I'm going to knock a little blue out. But my main concern right here is coming up to the top as close as you can get to your edge without creating growth. And you want to pull that color out. Just come into your edge as close as you can get and pull your color out. Now you can see on some of it where you're pulling out, see it's picking up that blue a little, and that is awesome. I mean, that's fine. There's not a problem with that, because nature is not perfect. That's the beauty of painting. If you're going to paint anything nature, it's not perfect. We're going to come back up this side, and we're going to pull this color down and out that way. This side, we'll come in, we'll pull it out and down. And that is all we're doing, is pulling our paint. We're trying to get this paint as thin and remove as much of it in here as we can, but at the same time we're trying to maintain our color, because you want it to be kind of dark still, if that makes sense, because you're gonna come in here and highlight, and in order to highlight you got to have dark. And anytime you're painting, remember that dark is important as light. Highlights will come in and light up a painting and make it beautiful and add color and just make one pop. But without that darkness there, those bright colors will just look drab. They'll be ugly. It'll all look flat. And it's not attractive. Now once you start doing this and you start getting these colors pulled out, you can see our mountains almost taking on a gray effect. And anytime in nature something is far off, it's going to have a grayness. It'll have the original color, but it'll have a grayness in it too. And that's because you're looking through pollution and water molecules and a whole bunch of stuff that just, it'll do it. Now the dreaded snow on the mountain. The most important key, or the most important hint I can give anybody that's having trouble with this, is pull your white paint. And I will try my best to show you with this, if I can get this palette out here. Pull this white paint as flat as you can get it. That is so important. It's pulling it flat as you can get it, and then coming in and getting you a small roll of paint. You do not want a bunch of paint piled up on your knife right here. and you want it to have the little roll to it. Because your paint, when it's breaking, that's what it's doing, is it's rolling under the color that's there. Very light pressure. I can't say that enough. The paint is all that's going to touch. When you come up to start, you want to come up to your edge, wherever you start at. Come up to the edge of your mountain and just let the paint be the only thing that touches. And just barely move it. Just barely touch. I mean barely. It is such a light touch. I mean you can see. I wish you could see. I don't know if my camera will even show it or not. But if you can see, my knife still has a little buildup. My blade never touched that mountain or that canvas. All it touched was that paint. And you can see just that little heel left. But you want to knock that off. And you can knock it off on your canvas or on your palette or wherever it is you're working on. We may use that color here in a few minutes. But you want to go back in your white and you want to get you another roll. Come up again. All it's touching is that paint. That's all it's touching. And just very lightly start working it down. Very, very lightly. Now some people can take and come in and in one motion and do it fast. I can do that sometimes, and sometimes I can't. And when I can't, it messes my whole mountain up, because then I go back and try to fix it. Big mistake. You're not going to fix it, so don't even try. You just have to come in, knock the color out, put you a little more dark in, and cover it back up. Excuse me. Now we're going to come in at our peak up to the very top. And right here is where you start kind of forming your mountain. And all I'm doing is I'm making little pulls, just little drags, until I feel that paint leave my knife. And the way you feel it leave your knife is your knife goes to touching that canvas. And that's what you don't want. Remember that. You want to keep that roll of paint as the only thing that's touching that canvas. And I know you've heard that the canvas will take off what it wants and give you back what's left. That is so true. The canvas will take off what it wants. And what it wants is, most of the time, depends on how much pressure you're using or how tacky your paint is under it. Just like that, we have snow on a mountain that's got these broken spots in it. Now we want to come back up to this one, start there at the peak, and just start pulling down in little short strokes. That's all you got to do, is just start pulling down until you run out of paint. Now if you try to go too long before picking you up some more paint, it'll start looking like you've spreading the paint with a spatula, like you're making a cake. And that's not what you want to do. You just want to touch very lightly, and my knife is flat. You can see how flat I'm keeping my knife. Sometimes my knife will be so flat my finger will touch the canvas under it, because it's that close, it's that flat. When you start running out of paint on your palette, pull you out some more, as flat as you can get it. That's the key. Get you some more paint, come back up, and just start just little pulls. That's all I'm doing. until I run out of paint. And I'll go back and I'll get some more paint. Now by doing this way, you can kind of see your mountain form sometimes. You can see the angles. Because a mountain range or doing these mountains like this, that's all this is. It's a game of angles. You gotta have the right angle. Then I'm gonna come over here on our far little mountain. Same thing over here. I'm gonna come in and just touch very lightly and pull. And that is it. Just like that. That's all there is to it. Now to make up your shadow color, you want to use a little of that phthalo blue. But now remember, earlier we used the phthalo green and we mixed it on the brush with that blue. So you want to make sure that you have the clean phthalo blue. You don't want to use phthalo blue with green in it. That's green snow it's not going to look right. But what you can do is once you mix your little blue in with your white and start getting that, it's almost a baby blue color you're going for. You can take your little of the color you use to make your mountain and mix in with it and get a grayish type blue. And to me, sometimes it just makes a prettier color. But don't mix it thoroughly. Kind of leave your colors to where you can see all the colors in it. You can see the gray, you can see the blue, and you can see the white. And as long as you can see all those colors, you're okay. And this color is just like before. You want to pull it out as thin as you can get it. And what I do when I'm doing my shadow side is I use that little tip of the knife. You want to come up as lightly as possible again. Come right to your snow. See where the snow, but stay in your mountain as well. Come up and touch that snow. And pull. Just pull your little color. Pull your little blue. Now, this is not an easy thing to do. It takes practice. And because sometimes I can't do it. I won't lie. Sometimes I cannot do it. One of the things that may help you is if you have to get close. Let me show you what I use. This is how I practiced with a $1 back scratcher. And I used it as my stick. And you can put it up here and you can rest your hand on it. And you can come up and just very gently, you gotta get that angle, very gently. It gives your hand something to rest on. And it helps you practice. And like I said, it's like a $1 back scratcher. I don't even remember where I got it at now. I think Florida, when I was down there. But once you get to where your hand is not shaking too bad, all you got to do is just come in. And this is not one of those steps that's going to make or break your painting. This is easy fixable if you mess up. So there's nothing to cry about. But just remember that a white peak has to have a shadow, or else it's just going to look like a piece of snow just sitting there in midair. Now, when we come on this side, okay, something happened. I don't know what right there. but I heard my camera make a sound, so shut everything down. So if you see a glitch in the screen, that's what it is. But I'm back. I was in the process of coming up here, putting some shadow on this side. So what we want to do is the same thing we've done everywhere else. Is come up, touch our white, and pull down. And the purpose for touching that white is to give it that light spilled over look. And come in and just all the way down and just pull at that angle. Just remember your angle. That's all. That's the most important thing right now, is your angle. In here where we did all our little jagged edges, we can come in here and do them now. It's easier to do them by themselves. And then basically after that, it's just a game of filling in color, just real lightly. And keep in mind that on this side, it don't take as much color because you already have a dark color down. So in order to make your mountain appear like it's in shadow, most of it's already done for you. Basically all you're doing is just adding a color to give it almost like you're giving some snow on this side a little color. Right here, we just want to continue on through. Just cut right in front of that little peak. And all it's going to do is push that peak further back behind this main peak, our main mountain. But that's all I'm doing now, is just dragging the color in. Still trying to be gentle with it, but you don't have to worry with it now as much as you were with your highlight, trying to get it to break. Because this color, the only time you really got to be really careful is when you come into your edges. Because now you definitely don't want your mountain to grow. Not with this color. Just come over to your white, pull it down, and then at the tip, come in here and just pull it down. And that's all it is. That's it. And then you basically, just that easy. You have a mountain. We got 3 mountains. Now we created a little depth right there already because this mountain is in front of that one and that one. So now we'll take our clean brush. This part is, let me see how to describe it in a way that would make sense. We want to create mist at the bottom of this. But unless you're going for a certain effect that you want it real heavy white, in some instances you can do that. Like if your mountain is real close to the water and it's cold and you want to see that mist rising up off the water, you can do that. But for the most part, if it's just you know you're going to put trees in front of it kind of deal, you want to come up and just lightly tap the bottom into your mountain in the same angle that your mountain is running. Just lightly tap up into it, just along the bottom. That's all you want to do. You don't want to destroy the bottom of it. You just want to create a hazy look. And you want to do the same thing on your white side. Now keep in mind when you're doing this, you are going to pick up the colors. You're going to pick up the white, and you're going to pick up the color that you made your mountain with, which is that gray, or that dark color, and it turns everything a gray look. You can see it happening right there. And then once you do all the way across like that, remember, stay in your angles. You can knock some of that color out or rub some of it out. I'm gonna say knock out all the time, I guess, but when I say knock it out, that's what I mean. Just rub some of it out. Now, very, very gently, come across the bottom here and rub the very bottom of your brush strokes. Not in here, not these, just the bottom. And rub some of the color out. And then very lightly, lay your brush down and come up following that same angle into your mountain. Just very gently remove those brush strokes, those tap strokes that you made with your brush, just by pulling them up. And when you do that, if you do it light enough, it'll almost look like you can see through the haze, if that makes sense. You can still see your mountain through that little haze. And then you can come back and just kind of feather your bottom. And the reason that's important is you don't want to come across here, with a tap, 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 a straight line across here, because that's not how it's made. I mean, these mountains are not made that way. Now, we don't have to wash this brush yet. You can see it's still got a little blue in it. We'll save off washing it for now. Excuse me. What we will do, well, let's go ahead and use that brush. We'll use that one. We will scrape up our remaining color that we had for our shadows, because that's got a little white in it, which is fine. In fact, you can add a little more white to it if you want. But we're going to take the color we used to make our mountain with, whether you used Mountain Mix or whether you used those colors I gave you the ingredients to, the recipe. And we're going to pick us up some of our sap green, very little amount of sap green, and we're going to mix all three of these colors together. And what we're looking for is a gray green color, kind of like olive drab, like the military uses. Just a light grayish green color. And the reason for that is it's going to be off in the distance, and we want it to have a grayness to it. We're going to tap our brush into it, and let me show you how we're tapping the brush to do this part, because it's important. If you can see the color. It's a grayish green looking color. This time all we're going to do is tap the brush across long ways to get paint across that bristle, and then push, like push. And that's when I say load the brush up, again in a minute here, that's the same way we're going to do it every time. But now for me, it's easier for me to start at the bottom and work my way out than it is for me to work my way in. I don't know why it's that way, but it is. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the bottom right here in as straight as I can hold my brush, just like this. I'm under my haze, as you can see, and I'm going to follow the line of that haze out, just like that. And I'm going to follow it all the way off the canvas, all the way off. And what I've got there is a straight, not really a straight, but the edges are clean for now. They won't be in a second. But I just got a little line that just runs right under the haze and up and out. because now we're going to load that brush up again and do it the same way. Remember, tap in that paint long ways and push. Now, very, very important that you come in here straight when we lift these up, these far trees. And that's what we're fixing to make. Have to be straight. And it's just a little, place your brush down at the bottom of your line there, and just a little flick up. Just a little flick. And you want these to stay as straight as possible. Now, a tendency is when you get over here is you want to pull them out straight that way, and that's not what you want to do. So what you want to do is once you get over here and your brush is at an angle like that, is don't let that fool you. Just go back and pull straight up that way. So you can lay that brush at an angle, but you can still pull it straight up, if that makes any sense at all. Just because your brush is at an angle, that don't mean that your upstroke has to be at an angle. But that's what we want to do. We want to pull these straight up. And that gives us a little line of trees that looks far off, that runs the distance of our what am I saying, mist. And it looks like there's just a little layer of mist back there behind the line of trees. And that's all we did, was popped it up. That's all. And by doing so, it gives them a sharp point on the trees. And they look like little evergreens is what they really look like to me. Now we want to do another line. We're going to come in from here and go out. But since we're moving closer to us, we'll come in. Let's give us a little body first right in here. And we don't need much, just a little. We'll give it a little body. But since we're fixing to put another one in front of this, we're going to have a separation. And when I say a separation, I mean of land masses. So if you're going to have a separation of land masses, and you want this land mass to be behind the one we're fixing to do, then you're going to have to take another brush, and you're going to have to just kind of distress or create mist there. And to do that, you can pick you up just a tiny amount of white on the tip of your 2-inch brush, and you can tap it on the canvas, or on the palette, on the canvas, just enough to smush it in and smear it. And come in here and just tap that white across the bottom here, and you can see it it diffuses that landmass that we just made, and it gives you that misty, foggy look. And what you want to do then is come in and very gently lift that up, very gently, and just hypnotize it out. Now we can go back into our green color that we made to do this, but this time let's add a little darker color to it. And we can do that with either black, we can do it with brown, or we can do it with any other color. I choose to do it with Van Dyke Brown, just a little, very little Van Dyke Brown, because brown is a natural color. So is blue and black, but the brown just kind of gives it an earthly feel, if that makes sense. And it don't really change the color too much. But now you can see where the top of that mist is. So we want to come at the bottom of that mist. We want to come out in our water a little. And we want to come up. And we want to create another little hill just by going straight up. That's all we want to do. And then we can come under it, give it a little body. It don't take much, just a little. Just like so. Come in and load your brush up again, get you some color on it, and then come up and let's do our straight up pull again. Straight up with our trees. Straight up. Straight up. That's what we want, straight up. And by doing this, we've given ourselves some more trees. We've made another landmass, and we've pushed this landmass back and pushed our mountain back a little further as well. Now, if you want this to come out and remain, you know, kind of be straight in the water, to do that, it's kind of easy. Just come in here and tap your straight line all the way back across. That's all you got to do, and fill it in. That's it. It's just that easy. And you can come in here and you can pull these. You can just make little pulls in here, and it'll create like little trees on this hillside. It'll create another complete little island for you almost. And you didn't even work for it. It did it itself. The paint did it. You can hear my birds tonight. Now over here on this side, we got this left out there hanging. Well, we're going to bring some trees in here, so that's not really important. But what you want to do is keep in mind that you're bringing these trees in. And when you bring these trees in, they're going to come in, and we're going to probably put some bushes all the way across here and back up again. So one of these needs to be longer than the other. See how we have two little points here? Let's make this one stick out a little further than that one. And then that way, it looks more natural that way. Now to do our trees. To do our trees, the same green color that we have right there, we can come in. Well, we'll put this brush in the bucket. We'll pick up our big oval brush. We'll go into, let me see if I can get this in the shot here. We'll go into our Van Dyke Brown and we'll pull it out. Just like so. And then we'll come into our green and we'll tap. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to tap that color in to our big brush. And we're going to start across the bottom. We're just going to come in here and just at random just tap you in some little things that kind of just look like bushes. You know, at random, just tap them in. Give some of them a little more height than the one next to it. You know, don't have them all growing the same height, because bushes don't do that in nature. And you can, if you want one to be separate, you know, to have a little more space from his buddy, just make him a little wider. And if you start running out of brown, go pick you up some more. Tap it in. Now, before we come up and go into our painting, we're going to give our little hills here, our little land, we're going to give them some water lines. And we're going to make it look like there's a little land under them. And to make it look like you got land under it, take you some Van Dyke brown on your knife, come up and just touch across. Now this does not have to be pretty. In fact, if it's not pretty, it looks more natural if it's not pretty. Because you want it to appear to be a bank. Now we're going to pull us out a little white. And we're going to get us a little dark sienna and mix in with our white. And we're going to pick us up a little roll. And we're going to come up. And we're going to touch that color on top of the brown that we just put. And again, this does not have to be pretty. You want it to look like jagged rock almost over here on the other side of the lake where this land is. You just want it to look like some jagged rocks over there. Now, when you do that, you can pick you up a little small fan brush and come into the color that we used to make all this. Take the fan brush. Now it's got some brown in it now, and it don't matter at this point because it's actually a good thing. It'll be a difference in color. But you can take and just pull some brown, or pull your fan brush, pull your fan brush through that color and load it on both sides. And come up to the edge of that little land bank you just made and just touch across the top. And just tap it all the way across the top. And just be careful not to come down into your water too much, like I just did. Now a lot of times you should make your reflections before you do this, but the reason I didn't is because we have some light already here, and when we go to do our water line, we're going to do it with a white color, with the white, and we're going to put just a little of that color that we just used for our highlight across here. We're going to get our line of paint that's on the back of the knife. And we're going to come in here and just keep it straight as you can. Push it all the way across, straight as you can. Now, when we did that, what we did was we created some spots that didn't get into. So for those spots, just come in and just almost like you're trying to cut through the canvas, just like so, and cut through them. And the reason I chose to use a lot of paint for this is I want this water to appear like it's coming through here kind of fast, because right in here we're fixing to put a tree, you won't see it. The only place you're going to see it, water, that we're fixing to do is a little bit right in here. And in order to make it look like it's moving, you just take a little white paint on your brush, on your knife, and just come across here and tap in places like so. Then you can take your fan brush that you just used, clean it real good, the little small fan brush, and you can come into that white color right there that you just did that to, and just pull it. Just pull it back. That's all you got to do. It's just pull that color at just different little angles. Just pulling it. And it'll make it look like this water's moving over here. And for that, you won't need reflections. You have reflections in moving water. I'm not saying that you don't, but they're not as prominent. You don't see them as much. But now we'll go back to our round brush, back into our brown color, back into our green color. And we're going to come up right here, and we're going to create us a tree going up. We'll go right into the mountain and just give our tree a distinct looking shape. And see, with it being a different color, how it pushed all of that back, covered all of that up. Now, that spot that I told you was ugly, it's not so ugly now. Back into your brown again. Back into your green again. Just mixing these colors on the brush. Right here, we're going to come over to our side, and we're going to close this off. And we're going to start up. That's all we're going to do. Is just at random tap up. And keep in mind, you're trying to make these look like trees, so you want to kind of give it a tree shape, like so. Come back into your brown again, back into your green, and then to finish out the painting over here on the side, we'll come out of this tree with another tree that'll go up into this cloud. And see how it got lighter? Because it got up there into that white paint. And what we done was close all that in with trees. Now I want to take us a liner brush. This is a modified liner brush that I modified. The guy that designed this brush he was an excellent painter. If you've never heard of him, I mean, he paints on YouTube. I think his videos are still up. He was a wonderful artist, and I never met him, but he seemed like such a kind man. And I will mention him right now because I respected his work. His name was Wilson Bickford, and I ordered this brush, and when it got in, it had real thick, long bristles, and it was too thick for me, for what I was using it for. So I just took and split the bristles in half and cut the other half off with a pair of scissors, and I made it my own brush. But for what he designed it for, I'm sure it worked perfect. And I didn't know what to order from him exactly, so I got this one. And I soaked that brush in thinner. All the way, soak it. Come into the Van Dyke brown color. Not the green and Van Dyke brown, but just the Van Dyke brown color. With your brush. And you may have to do this 2 or 3 times to get you want your paint to thin out. You want it to be as thin as water. And you want to roll those bristles in it. Now, I don't know what kind of liner brush you have, and they don't all work the same, trust me. I've had some liner brushes I couldn't draw nothing with. I couldn't make a limb look like a limb for nothing. This one does okay. But what I'm doing now is it pulls it to a tilt. And this paint is thin on this brush. But you want to come over to your tree and just come up and make you a straight branch. Well, I shouldn't say a straight branch, but a long branch that runs the center. Because most of the time, your branches in a tree is going to run the center first. Now they'll break off and go everywhere from there, but they usually run the center of the tree. You can come in then and just start kicking you off some little limbs here and there. A lot of these are going to get covered up. Some of them will remain visible when we're doing our highlights. But that's all we're doing, is just kicking out some little limbs. And my paint is still thin. I thinned that paint down almost like ink when I thinned it down with that paint thinner. I got it as thin as ink. Now it's not important that you put a lot of limbs on your tree, but you do want some limbs over here because, well, it's a tree. Trees have limbs. And then here you can come and just draw you in a few little sticks and twigs that represents trunks, cane talk. And in the corner, you can do the same thing over here. You can draw you in some little trunk lines that represent trunks. And then I always clean my liner brush immediately as soon as I'm done with that. Now I don't always clean all my brushes as soon as I'm done, but my liner brush, I clean it immediately. Because it's so small, and it's very important. I don't want this brush messed up. I love that brush. Now, what we're fixing to do is highlight the trees. And this is pretty much where your whole painting comes to life. And what I'm going to use today to highlight with is I'm going to use the little small oval brush. I can't remember the number on it, but these are Bob Ross brushes, and there's only 2 of them. Now I am a certified instructor, so I can say I use Bob Ross products. I do. I use a lot of his products. I've read a lot of stuff online that I won't get into about his product and how it changed and all. Like I said, I won't get into that. For me, I've learned workarounds, so I don't have any problems. Lucky me, huh? But anyway, let's do our highlights. And to do our highlights, what we're going to do is we're going to start with the tree we want to be most forward is the last tree we want to do. Always do your tree that you want back first. So with that being said, I'm going to go into the cad yellow and I'm just going to tap. We'll add just a little bit, tiny amount of paint thinner to our yellow. And this is straight yellow. I'm not adding any green to it yet because I don't want the green on the very tip edges of my trees. I'm going to use just the yellow first. And all I've done is tap them. And I'm going to say on the edge, and I know it sounds weird the edge of a round brush. But this brush does form an edge. After you use it, you'll see what I'm saying. Okay, I'm going to come up and just barely touch. Barely touch. That's all we're doing. And we want to be very careful not to cover up all the dark. We do not want to cover up all the dark. Now you can see once you start tapping on your color, I'm going to pick up just a little bit more thinner because thin paint sticks to a thick paint. But you can see once you start tapping on your color, it starts picking up a little of that green anyway. Just do not cover up all your dark. That is the most important rule right now, is don't cover up all the dark. And then once you start getting closer to the bottom, since I'm just using that color right now, I'm going to change this color up somewhere along the lines, but for now I want to use it. I'll turn some of these little trees here. I'll use the same color on them. We'll make another one right here. And I'm just doing this at random. There is no method to my madness here. I'm just doing it at random. But you can see, just out of yellow, all yellow alone, and with what little green it picked up, we got that done, that one, and that one done. So now I am going to go into another color. I'm going into Indian yellow. And when I go into the Indian yellow, I've learned that for me, if I go into the white with it, it's prettier. It takes on a prettier color. But with the Indian yellow and the white mixed together, I'm going to come up. And you always want to start outside your border of the trees that you've made. We'll get just a little bit of thinner here so I can show you how this sticks. You want to come to the outside just a little and just touch. And to me, it's almost like it gives it a flingy, like the leaves are just flinging off the tree out on the end. And here again, we want to touch. Keep our brush with some color on it. You got to have color to do this. It's got to pull off. But just like that. And it's not a real hard touch. It's a gentle touch and pull off. Touch and pull off. You don't want to do something that's going to make your brush slide while you're doing this. Because that'll look horrible. It'll look scary. And then out here. And just like that, we're still going to use this color. We'll use a little more of it. We'll use it, let's say, right here. We'll turn this little bush and this little bush into that color with the Indian yellow and white. Just like so. Always remember, leave you some dark color. Now we'll go into a little bit of the yellow ochre. We'll tap it into our brush. We'll come in. We'll come under our tree right here. Leaving some dark. And we'll do these in a fan type motion. And what I mean by that is we'll start in the center and work out. Just just like a fan, like so. That's all you got to do. It's just that easy. Then we'll drop down and we'll do another one here in the corner. Just make sure you leave yourself some dark area. You got to have that dark area to make it look like you're looking back into the woods. To make it look like there's places for animals to hide, I think is the way Bob said it. Then we want to come into our bright red. Now, this is where you want to be kind of careful, because a bright red can get crazy. I like to tone it down with just with a little of the yellow ochre, because yellow ochre and red together make a real pretty color. It's like a peachy yellow, orangish color. It's real pretty, but it will set some trees on fire. I mean, they seem to glow with that color. We do one right there. Then we'll come over and we'll turn this whole tree into one of those. We'll start at the very top. We'll work our way around. Go back, get you some more paint. And just at random, as long as you keep in mind that you're building a tree here, just at I don't want to really say at random, but kind of think how a tree looks out in the wild when you're looking at one. How they have the leaves that just kind of bush out here and there. But now by doing that and leaving a dark color, you're painting this side of the tree that's facing you, but you're also leaving that dark color for the leaves that are facing away from you, if that makes sense. And we got to come in here with the color. And to keep it balanced, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my alizarin crimson, and I'll bring that alizarin crimson down because it's a darker color. I'll bring the alizarin crimson into the yellow ochre. And since it's further away from the sun, this color just will get a little darker, almost like it's sitting further back. Now, look at this brush, if you can see it. That brush is full of paint. You definitely want to drag that off. Knock a lot of this paint out in your napkin before you put it in your thinner. But just like that, you have a finished painting, other than coming in and here and there, putting you in a couple little twigs and sticks with the knife blade. Now, if you want to make a painting yours, or you want to set it apart from somebody else, you can come in here and draw you a dead tree and make it just grow in front of your little river bank. But this was a simple, easy to do painting, something that I felt like anybody can do. And I said this in the last painting, but you didn't get to see it because I messed up. Anybody that sees this painting, if you would like to have this painting, comment on the video, I would like to have it. And I will let it ride for about a week or so until it's good and dry. I will draw a name. And whoever wins this painting, if you live inside the United States, it has to stay in the U.S., I will ship this painting to you free of charge, and you can have it. I mean, it's just something I want to do. I got paint stacked up everywhere. I don't need it. And if you like it so much that you'd like to have it, like I said, just take the time to comment that on it, and I will stick a thumbnail of the painting at the end of the video. But for now, other than putting the H on it, which is what I do to my paintings when I'm done, you can sign your painting however you want. But I'll just take a paint eraser today, and I'll come in, and I'll put my H on it, and it's done. It's ready for a frame and a wall, just like that. Thank y'all so much for joining me. And again, I apologize for messing that last video up. I'm human. I make mistakes. I make them daily. I won't hide them from you. I'll be as honest with you as I can. If there's anything I can do that helps you, ask me. And if I can't, I'll find somebody that can. I won't do nothing to hurt you. I mean, that's not what this is about. I'm trying to think of anything else I might have left out here. And I don't see anything. I mean, it's just a simple landscape painting. Ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all for joining me. Y'all have a blessed night. And I'll see you next time.